Hi.
Hey.
So what's going on here?
So, my sister, his daughter, has been missing for 5 days now.
Okay.
I've seen a boatload of flies behind the shed. And when I pulled things out, we have these bags.
Smells like death in there.
Don't make me think she's there. Don't tell me she's there.
When 23-year-old Kevin Marzejka found dead bodies wrapped in plastic bags in his shed, he had no idea that it was just the beginning of a mystery that would change everything forever.
That doesn't look normal. Let's grab a mask.
I've been employed with Clinton Township Police for 18 years. This one will stand out in my mind as being more gruesome, if not than any one I've ever seen.
The deranged motive behind this unspeakable act would soon unravel and prove to be the catalyst of a dark and sinister secret.
If there's a death hurt in my shed, I'm done, son. I'd rather not involve somebody that doesn't need to be involved.
You realize we're talking about possibly dead people here, right?
It all started on the tense afternoon of August 26, 2018, when the Clinton police received a disturbing 911 call at exactly 6:20 p.m. about a deadly discovery.
911, where's your
Hello?
emergency?
Hi, I need someone to come to my house immediately.
Okay, what's going on over there?
Well, my sister's been missing for 4 or 5 days. Her and her boyfriend. And we just found 2 bags in the shed, and there's flies all. I think they're in the shed in a bag, okay? And I'm just scared to open it.
Okay, we don't want you to touch anything, okay? Because if it is something like that, there's going to be evidence, okay?
We stopped.
Okay,
We stopped.
you said there's how many bags in that shed?
There's like 5 bags, but these 2 are the ones with flies all over them, okay? Can you just get someone here to check, please?
Yep, we're getting everyone on the way. What's your name?
Kevin Marzejka. Get over here, please.
When the police arrived at Rudgate, Clinton, Michigan, they had no idea that the alarming nature of the 911 call failed to even scratch the surface of the horror waiting for them.
Hi.
Hey.
So what's going on here?
On the scene, they were first met by Kevin Marzejka and his father, Robert Sr.
My sister, his daughter, has been missing for 5 days now.
Okay.
I did a walk around the house to check if there's any trails or anything suspicious. I've seen a boatload of flies behind the shed. And when I pulled things out, we have these bags.
Smells like death in there.
Filled with flies, and they don't look good.
I can't even open it.
What makes you think that she's there? What makes you think something happened to her?
Don't make me think she's there. Don't tell me she's there.
By that point, Kevin's sister, Danielle Marzejka, and her boyfriend, Seren Bryan, had already been missing for 3 days. While still looking for them everywhere, something strange had started to bother Kevin and Robert Sr. The shed in the backyard had been giving off a foul odor for days. But that morning, it had grown so unbearable that Robert Sr. couldn't ignore it anymore. When his own key was nowhere to be found, he called Kevin to bring the spare one, and what they found inside was far more horrifying than anything they could have imagined.
Let's see what we got first. And yeah, I mean, we don't even know what we have. That doesn't look normal. Let's grab a mask.
There should be 2 in there, right? And let's do this. You want to do booties? Yes.
Just in case. I got seniority. I'll do like.
Inside, there were mattresses and piles of household bags stacked up on both sides. But the real concern were the 2 large black bags in the corner, swarmed by flies and having a sickening and decomposing stench. As the officers checked from the sliced part of the bag, the sight left him stunned. It was a pale, veiny leg sticking out, with the glimpse of a bloodied hand.
Oh yeah, dude. We don't have to cut. We're confirmed. We're confirmed. Confirmed.
It's confirmed. Yes, it is. It is. Get everybody out here.
The officers knew their job wasn't done yet and decided to search the house for any additional evidence or clues. The shed didn't seem like the scene of the crime. The officers considered instead whether something incriminating was hidden inside.
Please tell me it's not my girl.
Police.
I peeled off to the left and we started searching and just started going room by room, checking everything.
They scoured every corner of the house, from the drawers to the floors, but everything appeared untouched and eerily undisturbed. They were now ready to start their double homicide investigation. After searching the house, the officers turned their attention back to the bodies to understand the vicious nature of the attack.
Perfect. I'm gonna start tape.
Here, I got tape right here.
I'll tie it here, and then we'll get the front. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the plate.
Hey,
Go
yeah,
for
you got a doozy here today. You haven't even opened that second bag, yeah. So we don't know. It looks that each bag looks like it would be one body.
I watched as both bodies were removed from the bags, and I saw that both bodies had been duct taped. Their hands were bound together, their feet were bound together. They also had duct tape around their mouths or over their nose, and they also had bags put over their head and then duct taped around those bags around their neck.
What made it even more disturbing were the clear signs of asphyxiation. Duct tape had been tightly wrapped around their heads with layers of 5 plastic bags in total, along with black contractor bags and store shopping bags, which left no chance for them to breathe. The bodies were decomposing to such an extent that they weren't even able to identify them. Now, as the officers carefully opened one of the bags, they found multiple items inside soaked in blood. Among them was a small mallet, also covered in blood, which they immediately suspected to be the murder weapon, given the severe head trauma found on the bodies. But the horrors didn't stop there. Digging further, they uncovered a roll of duct tape drenched in blood, along with blood-soaked bedsheets. It was clear these sheets had likely been used to wrap the bodies before they were dumped in the shed. It was undoubtedly a well-planned murder.
I've been employed with Clinton Township Police for 18 years. This one will stand out in my mind as being more gruesome, if not than any one I've ever seen.
By this time, word had spread, and friends and family gathered anxiously outside the house. Inside, the police were still trying to piece together what had happened to Danielle and Seren, as they were still missing, and every clue so far only deepened their sense of unease. To get more insight, the officers decided to speak with a co-worker and friend of both Danielle and Seren.
How old is she?
18. Her and her boyfriend Seren is 19 are both missing.
Danielle and Seren both worked at National Coney Island, and on the night of August 23rd, the day they went missing, they had worked a late shift. As usual, their co-worker had picked them up and dropped them home. However, the next day, things had taken a strange turn when she sent Danielle a few messages, but for the first time, there was no reply. It was unlike Danielle, who, like most teenagers, was constantly on her phone, always carrying her charger to stay connected. Her silence was worrying. But the real alarm came the next day, on August 24th, when neither Danielle nor Seren showed up for work.
They both work with me. I dropped them off after work on Thursday morning. They've been missing since Thursday at 8 a.m. That's when I dropped them off. That's the last time they were seen.
Where'd you drop them off?
Here, at their house, after work.
That was the last time you saw them?
That's the last time anyone saw them.
Not only her, but Danielle's family also began to notice her disappearance. It was by August 25th, 2018, with still no sign of either of them and no way to reach them, that Robert Sr. decided it was time to take action and filed a missing persons report. Yet it wasn't until the next day, August 26th, that a deeper sense of dread settled in as he noticed an odd, decomposing smell lingering near the shed.
So we were looking for the key. We couldn't find the key. One of the keys is missing. So we found the spare, and there was a bag covered in flies. It smelled like death, and we were trying to figure out what was in it. So her dad and brother cut it open and pulled the plastic apart, and then both screamed and freaked out and ran to the shed.
Later that night, the officers also talked with Robert Sr. to gather more information, but they quickly noticed that something was terribly odd.
Me?
It's kind of rough, isn't it, man?
What are they going to know?
Yeah, not for a little while. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they got it. Don't want to, his daughter. I know, I get it.
When your shed, it was locked, right?
Yeah.
You and Kevin locked, right?
Yep.
Whose key did you use?
Mine.
So at this point in the investigation, we had a shed that was not broken into. Someone used a key to get into that shed. We had what appeared to be 2 bodies stuffed in bags in that shed. We had a couple different stories on whose key was used. And at that point, we were trying to figure out whose story was true, who we could believe, and who we couldn't.
Even though it was late, the investigation couldn't wait. Kevin and Robert Sr. were called to the Clinton police station at 11:57 p.m. for questioning.
Just gonna wait here until detectives get here, okay? No problem.
Kevin was completely cooperative throughout as the investigators explored different possibilities behind Danielle's disappearance.
What's your name? Kevin. Kevin, Joe Burns. I'm a detective here.
Yeah, quit.
How's Seren's relationship been with Danielle? I mean, they get along?
I mean, from what I was told from her friends,
Okay.
that her boyfriend would never hurt her. So I figured if, she got hurt, he was with her,
So just so I can get this straight in my head, because I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
Living there at that time, so within the last week, I had you living there, your dad,
Yeah.
Seren,
Yeah.
Danielle. Was there anybody else?
My brother,
Okay, and what's your brother's name?
Robert.
Okay.
It was for the first time since the 911 call the investigators heard the name of another brother, Robert Jr. It immediately struck them as odd. With everything that had unfolded, why hadn't Robert Jr. been there during such a critical moment for the family?
Were you trying to communicate with him that night?
I tried on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, but you didn't try to.
And, well, the thing is, I could tell, he caught, drift of what's going on, and he pretty much said he's shutting his phone off. I gotta go charge my phone, and then he never came back online.
Right.
So I didn't bother trying to call, trying to text. If he's not coming back online, he's obviously knows what's going on at that point.
At this point, their suspicions started to center on Robert Jr., who had lived in the same mobile home with his family. But before moving forward, they needed to know more about Robert Sr. and the reason behind his strange behavior.
What about your dad? How's your dad?
He's a drunk, and we lost my mom in 2011, and he's never really been the same, Well, he's always drank. Before, he used to take pain pills, too.
Right.
And the mix of both always made it.
Okay.
He just blatantly was no reason. 3 kids, we've been on our own pretty much since,
What does he do?
He paints.
Okay.
Yep.
So has he been painting at all?
Yep.
Okay. So he's been going out to work, but you said he's drinking quite a bit?
Yep.
Kevin revealed that his father could behave like 2 completely different people after drinking, but as they dug more, the more twisted and complicated the case became.
All I do is worry about her. And now, the end is near. And so I face the final curtain.
For you?
Yeah.
Why for you?
Because if that's her in my shed, I'm done, son.
Robert Sr. seemed increasingly disoriented by his own statements. Earlier, he'd admitted to opening the shed with his own key, but now his story was changing, twisting into something far more sinister.
And you don't remember whose key you used to get in there?
You know what? My key wasn't on the shelf.
Right.
I remember that.
Now you
Where
remember.
it always is.
Now you remember it after I told you that.
What?
Because the whole day you were telling me that it was your key you were using.
Because that's what I always use. All right?
And then when I told you that.
Listen, well, believe me, I haven't slept in days.
Okay, well, I get
Listen. I remember it because I went up on the shelf where I have the house keys, and it wasn't there. So I said, my key's not there. And I checked my pockets, because sometimes I have it. No, it wasn't there. Because we had to break the damn lock to get in.
Right.
There was no doubt he was under suspicion, but investigators remained curious about Robert Jr. as well.
Where is Robert staying at right now?
I have no clue.
You said Robert was with you when you went to work on Thursday?
Yeah.
Did he pick you up, or did you go pick him up, or how did it work?
No, he picked me up. He dropped me off.
Okay. So he picked you up in the morning,
Yep.
dropped you off at 5:30.
Yep.
So you were with him the whole day.
Yes.
I'm trying to put pieces together because we want to talk to Robert so that we can get his story too. You know.
I'd rather not involve somebody that doesn't need to be involved.
You realize we're talking about possibly dead people here, right?
Surprisingly, Robert Sr. seemed intent on protecting his son, Robert Jr., which raised even more questions. Why was he shielding him? What was happening between them? Were they hiding a dark secret about the murders? Despite the growing suspicions, there wasn't enough evidence to hold them, so both were allowed to leave, and the night ended in mystery and uncertainty. The next day, on August 27, 2018, the investigators received the autopsy results. The findings confirmed that both victims had died from asphyxiation due to the duct tape and blunt force trauma to the head, which was likely inflicted by the bloodied mallet found earlier. But the most devastating blow came when the bodies were finally identified to be that of Danielle's and Seren's.
My sister Danielle was a very beautiful soul. I mean, she was very unique and very creative. She loved the odd things in life. She didn't go for your basic, girly things that they all love, whether it's, flowers and whatnot. I mean, she loved spiders and bees and odd things like that, things that didn't get the normal attention. And a lot of her pictures, she would kind of put her head up and just her arms open and kind of embrace the world.
Seren was a very kind person. He was sensitive to how others felt and wanted people to be comfortable and happy. He liked to draw and create art. He had sketch journals. Sometimes he shared them, and asking questions about them, I found out more about his day and how things were going.
It was their inner beauty that had brought them together, and after years of dating, Seren, who had lived an hour and a half away with his mother Diana Bryan, made the decision to move in with Danielle's family. From that point on, they all lived under one roof, never imagining that their future would soon be tragically stolen from them. When news of the murders broke, countless theories began swirling, and people speculated on motives, suspects, and scenarios, but a few provoking details stood out to the investigators. It made them believe that something far darker was right in front of them, yet somehow still slipping through their fingers. The bodies had no defensive wounds, which meant that neither Danielle nor Seren had fought back. But the bigger question was, how could two people be killed, wrapped in layers of bags without anyone noticing, and then dumped into a locked shed that required a key to open? It seemed unlikely that this could have been done without the assistance of someone close to the family, or even from the family. After connecting all the dots, the investigators' first stop was the mobile home where Danielle and Seren had lived. Armed with a search warrant, they had no idea that they were walking into the house of hell. At first, the house appeared to be normal as ever, but when they stepped into Danielle's room, the picture started becoming clear.
Looking around to your naked eye, it would look just like a bedroom. We use this stuff called Blue Star, so it reacts to where blood was. And the reason why we use that is because at this crime scene, someone had cleaned up. Someone had staged this bedroom to look like nothing happened in that room.
Not only staged, but the person had spent a lot of time cleaning up the massive amount of blood. The detectives then moved towards Robert Jr.'s room, where things took an even more unsettling turn. Inside his closet, they found several items splattered with blood, and it seemed to have been hastily thrown into the closet in a desperate attempt to hide evidence.
The evidence tech located a bunch of evidence, black duct tape that had blood on it and hair on it, sheets that had blood on it, towels that had blood on it, a lot of different things that looked like were used to clean up maybe a crime scene.
With blood present everywhere, from the rooms to the doors, and everything that had been touched by bloody hands, the investigators had extensive evidence which strongly suggested that Robert Jr. was deeply involved in the murders of his sister Danielle and her boyfriend Seren. With him still missing, the investigators now faced a manhunt to track him down.
If Robert Jr. is on the run, he could be pretty far away by now. We also discovered that their family van was now missing and no one knew where it was. So we're starting to realize that Robert Jr., if he is our suspect, could have fled in that van. At that point, things started to move a little bit quicker for us, and we had to move fast.
As investigators dug into Robert Jr.'s background, they discovered that he'd been struggling with serious mental health issues for years. After the death of their mother, Jill, in 2011, when Robert Jr. was just 17, he'd started hearing voices and acting unusually. Over time, his condition worsened, leading to multiple hospitalizations due to his erratic behavior. Despite being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and paranoia, Robert Jr. consistently refused to take his prescribed medications. As a result, his mental state became increasingly aggressive, marked by frequent hallucinations, paranoia, and hyperactive speech. All this information was highly alarming, and finding Robert Jr. quickly became crucial, not only for solving the case, but also for ensuring the safety of others.
We got a search warrant for his cell phone records. I was looking at the 23rd, which was the last day that Seren and Danielle's coworker saw them. Well, later that morning, early afternoon, I see Robert Jr. was calling a local cab company. And I followed up with that cab company to find out if they did show up to give him a ride.
It didn't take long for the investigators to track down the cab driver and bring him in for questioning.
So I spoke to your operator. I asked her about the 23rd. You recall going to pick up somebody at a trailer last Thursday?
Okay, I think I kind of do remember.
Can you tell me anything about that pickup on who it was or anything you recall?
Oh, I can't really remember. Dropped him off at Wendy's. Or I asked him, did you have a specific spot you want to be dropped off? And he said first, I think, at Walgreens and then at Wendy's. And I pulled right in, and very first parking spot, he got out and paid me, and that's all I know.
Without wasting any time, the investigators made their way to Wendy's, which doubled as a bus stop. They quickly noticed several CCTV cameras covering every angle of the area, so they requested footage from August 23rd, and sure enough, Robert Jr. appeared on the videos, casually wandering around.
He's just acting like the normal guy that you might be standing behind in line at the counter.
What struck them most was how calm he seemed, as if nothing had happened. There wasn't any trace of blood on his clothes, and his demeanor made it hard to believe he'd just been involved in such a vicious crime. From the CCTV recordings, they spotted him boarding a bus, and acting quickly, they obtained the bus number and requested the interior CCTV footage. This footage from August 23rd painted a completely different picture from what Robert Sr. had told investigators. Claimed that Robert Jr. was with them all day at work across town, but now, seeing him get on a bus, it was clear that he wasn't. This raised serious doubts about Robert Sr.'s involvement. It seemed he was intentionally covering up for his son, possibly knowing more about the murders than he was letting on, or perhaps hiding his own involvement. With the new evidence, the investigators were certain that Robert Jr. was on the run in his 1999 white Ford E250 van. Therefore, the Clinton police reached out to the van's previous owner in order to track it down, explaining that the vehicle might be connected to a double homicide.
Previous owner, when he had it put up for sale, had taken a bunch of pictures of the van. So I created a crime bulletin. We distributed that to other law enforcement agencies and to the media to get it out to the public.
While the manhunt for Robert Jr. had just begun, the families of Danielle and Seren gathered to hold a memorial in their honor.
One of his friends and classmates brought a blank canvas to both memorials, and then she laid out different enamel paints, and people put fingerprints or thumbprints on the canvas. I have that. It was more than enough, and it's what was right for him.
While time seemed to drag painfully slowly for the grieving families, the investigators were working at full speed. On the morning of August 29, 2018, at around 10:08 a.m., they received a call from Officer Anthony Duncan in Toledo, Ohio, as he had reason to believe that Robert Jr. might be in the area.
My thought process, I'm trying to think like Mr. Marzejka. He's trying to blend in within the community. I used the homeless to help me. I needed them to pound the pavement for me.
The investigators soon received a crucial tip from homeless people in the area who reported seeing Robert Jr.'s white van parked near a local grocery store. However, when the police arrived, Robert Jr. was nowhere in sight. The van had been abandoned, with all the materials still inside. Though they thoroughly searched the vehicle, they weren't sure if Robert Jr. would return, but one thing was clear. He'd been in the area recently, and that gave them a point to start at. Determined not to lose the trail, the Toledo police began canvassing local businesses near where the van was found. They combed through hours of CCTV footage, and after what felt like an endless search, they made a chance discovery.
He's wearing a disguise, the blonde wig and sunglasses and the tan baseball cap. It looked so foolish. But he just stood out. He thought he was trying to blend in, but he actually stood out.
Robert Jr. was next seen entering a shop where he bought a phone, likely to make a quick call to someone. Shortly after, he returned the phone, neatly packaged back up, and exchanged it for cash. It was clear he was being cautious with every move he made. After that, he was spotted at a nearby gas station buying some food. His actions showed he was trying to stay under the radar while still keeping himself on the move.
He went there and purchased cigarettes and beverages and everything. But he was denied cigarettes because he didn't have identification. It's a challenge to me. It's like a cat and mouse game. He's trying to get away. My job is to catch him.
At this point, Robert Jr. could have easily slipped through their fingers as they had no more CCTV footage to follow his movements. But one crucial insight saved the entire investigation from falling apart. They realized that Robert Jr. had no close friends to rely on, so if he planned to flee from Ohio, he would need new identification. Knowing that security checks would require ID at any station, they turned their focus to reviewing the CCTV footage from local train and bus stations. Finally, their instincts paid off when, while scanning the footage at the bus station ticket counter, they spotted Robert Jr. again. This time, he'd bought a ticket to Cincinnati using his alias Josh Bianca at 11:55 p.m. on August 28th. His bus was set to arrive at around 3:45 p.m. the next day. This breakthrough was exactly what the investigators needed, and they immediately contacted the U.S. Marshals in Cincinnati, alerting them to start combing the area for Robert Jr. and capture him as soon as he was spotted, thereby putting an end to the chase.
We have many core missions, but one of them is a fugitive apprehension. And we pretty much pride ourselves in working with local police departments. It's best to have U.S. Marshals because there's not anywhere we can't go. If we need to, in some cases, we can go outside the country as well. He had about a 6-hour head start on us, and we knew that he had definitely came to Cincinnati, so that was our breadcrumb at the time. So at that point in time, we started heading toward the Greyhound station there in Cincinnati.
Robert Jr. wasn't going to be an easy target. The moment he arrived in Cincinnati, his first stop was to the Greyhound station, where he'd asked an employee 2 key questions: where could he buy a phone, and where the library was located. It seemed like he was following a carefully crafted plan, trying to stay under the radar. With this information, the U.S. Marshals quickly sent several undercover agents to the Cincinnati Public Library, ready to catch him. But they knew they had to be cautious. Robert Jr. was on high alert. If he sensed anything suspicious or noticed officers in tactical gear, he might try to make a run for it. The officers began tailing Robert Jr. as he moved through the lobby of the library. A security guard sat just inside the doorway, facing the elevators. The marshals showed him a picture of Robert Jr. and instructed him not to approach the suspect as he was dangerous. They asked the guard to keep a close eye on his movements and stay alert. Soon after, Robert Jr. stepped into an elevator while the officers watched closely, waiting for the right moment to make their move. He was disguised, wearing a blonde wig, a hat, and holding a coffee cup, trying to blend in. But as soon as he returned to the lobby, the officers sprang into action. With guns drawn, they swiftly approached Robert Jr., and he was caught completely off guard, frozen in shock as he realized his time on the run had come to an end. The U.S. Marshals quickly arrested him right there in the lobby, putting an end to the manhunt.
So the marshals had their man, but that was not the end of my job. I had to continue with the investigation. Robert Jr. was transported up to the Clinton Township Police Department. Once he's up here, I got word that he wanted to talk to me, which surprised me. I didn't know that he would talk.
Finally, on August 29, 2018, the authorities had their suspect right in front of them. Now, their top priority was to get a confession, and they knew they couldn't rush things, so they adopted a careful approach. The investigators worked to make Robert Jr. feel comfortable, trying to build trust and make him believe that they were there to help him.
Obviously, what happened was unimaginable, you know, and it happened to your sister, which is awful, okay? But a lot of times there's reasons why things happen, and whether those reasons are understandable or not, I'm just here to hear you out, okay? So, what did you have to say to us? Did something happen that set you off, or what happened? Well, my first question is, what is my charge? I can show it to you, okay? Okay, so normally, you got 2 counts. This is actually the charge document here. 2 counts of homicide, murder, and first degree. What is that? Premeditated. What is premeditated? I mean, you plan to do it. And if that's not the case, you tell me. You're looking at the worst charge possible. Okay? Killing 2 people. Alright? But nobody can understand why this happened.
Robert Jr. showed little interest in explaining the murders or even acknowledging the seriousness of what he'd done. He seemed distant and disconnected. But when he asked if he could call his brother Kevin, investigators saw a glimmer of hope. They thought this could be the moment. Maybe he would finally open up and confess everything.
Hello? Hello? Hey. So, are you gonna make this case go easier, bro? I don't know. What do you mean? Are you guys okay in the house? Like, we're not living there anymore, Rob. There's blood everywhere. So, are you pleading guilty to everything? No, I'm not. Wait. Why? I can't really talk about it on the phone, but...
Robert Jr. had already made up his mind to plead not guilty, which greatly frustrated the investigators. They needed his confession to build a strong case against him, and without it, things became more complicated. However, the investigators were determined. They knew they had the right suspect in custody and were willing to do it all. So they proceeded to arrest and charge Robert Jr. with the murders of his sister, Danielle Marzejka, and her boyfriend, Seren Bryan, confident that they had enough evidence to hold him accountable for the crimes.
Seren and Danielle returned home at 8 in the morning from working all night and go to bed. Robert Sr. and Robert Jr. were going to go paint that day. Robert Jr. was nowhere to be found. He wasn't in his bedroom. He wasn't there. So I believe Robert Sr. left to go to work. And then Robert Jr. then returned home at some point that morning. And something bad happened in Seren and Danielle's bedroom. But I believe that they were bludgeoned to the head and knocked out right away. And probably right then is when Robert Jr. taped them up so they couldn't move.
No one could undo what happened that tragic night to Danielle and Seren, but Seren's mother, Diana, had something to say to the person responsible for her son's death during the trial when her emotions overwhelmed her.
I first met Seren on March 23rd, 1998. I saw his heart beating during an ultrasound that day. He's been in my heart and thoughts every day since. My hope was that he would grow up to be a kind, thoughtful person who loved himself and others. And I'm very thankful that I saw him become that man. This is the man now known as one of 2 bodies found in trash bags in a shed. Each day, I struggle to not let his final day affect me more than that day I first saw his heart beating. I say to myself, sometimes out loud. You cannot keep Seren in that day. You can't keep him in pain. Seren isn't there anymore.
After 6 days of an emotional trial filled with pain and heartache, the jury returned with their decision on November 23, 2019. It took them only 40 minutes to deliver the verdict. Robert Marzejka Jr. was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder for killing his sister Danielle and her boyfriend Seren Bryan. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While the family's grief was immense and their loss could never be undone, the verdict brought some sense of closure. They could now cherish the memories of Danielle and Seren, knowing that justice had been served.
As much as my brother's done, I don't hate him. He's where he deserves to be. You know, he's where he belongs. I don't forgive him, and I don't think I ever will, but I don't hate him, and I definitely don't love him either. He's just not my brother. He's just some stranger that murdered my sister and her boyfriend and is in prison for the rest of his life.
Changing who I am because of the offender is a disservice to Seren and to Danielle. No matter what you go through, you can choose if it's going to change you for the worse or the better. Seren's with me every day. He's in my heart.
What are your thoughts on this case? Was it really just mental health that was the reason for the killings, or was something else more sinister hiding? Could Robert Sr. be involved in the killings as well? We'd love to hear from you. If there's a case you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to drop your recommendations in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Mysterious 7, for more captivating true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled for the next mystery to unfold.